The fate of Europe trembled on a single morning. Armies clashed, cannon raw, and strategy became destiny. This is the day that changed history. In the summer of 1704, Europe held its breath. The continent, fractured by the War of the Spanish Succession, had reached a tipping point. Nations had long tested each other's patience, ambitions, and power. A single clash could tilt the balance of empires for decades. Fields that had once nurtured peace were now prepared for destruction, and upon these fields, two commanders, brilliant in mind and resolute in will, prepared to rewrite history. The armies lined up in tense anticipation. Thousands of men, drawn from the far corners of Europe, faced each other with nerves taut as steel. Cannons gleamed in the morning sun, and drums beat the rhythm of destiny. For the soldiers, it was a test of courage. For the leaders, it was a canvas upon which strategy would paint its most decisive strokes. Every decision, every movement, had the power to turn hope into despair, triumph into ruin. The battlefield itself became a silent witness to genius. Rivers, woods, and rolling hills were not obstacles, but instruments of tactical brilliance. Lines of infantry shifted with precision, cavalry surged like living torrents, and artillery thundered with deliberate ferocity. Every maneuver was calculated, every risk weighed, every moment a potential turning point. The commander's insight allowed them to see beyond the chaos, to anticipate, adapt, and dominate where lesser minds would falter. Yet the true drama was not only in victory, but in the stakes it carried. A misstep could have toppled dynasties, altered borders, and rewritten treaties forged in fire. The battle was more than a contest of men. It was a contest of destiny, where foresight, courage, and audacity met the unpredictability of war. And when the smoke cleared, when the echoes of cannon faded into memory, the world would know that this day had shifted the trajectory of Europe forever. It was a masterclass in leadership, strategy, and resolve, a day when preparation met opportunity and brilliance met circumstance. The names of those who led would become legends, their tactics studied for generations. But beyond the strategy and the glory, it was a reminder that history is often forged in a single moment, that one day, one decision, and one battlefield can alter the course of nations. Europe trembled on the brink of a new order. For years, the continent had been a chessboard of alliances, rivalries, and ambitions, each move carefully calculated, each treaty a fragile promise. Yet in the early summer of 1704, that balance was shattered. One day, one battlefield, one decision would determine whether empires would rise or crumble, whether nations would be humbled or immortalized. The stakes had never been higher, and every eye turned toward the fields where destiny would soon be decided. Armies gathered, stretching as far as the eye could see, a mass of disciplined men, their armor glinting in the sun, their flags snapping in the wind. The air was thick with anticipation, tension so taut it could be cut with a blade. For the commanders, this was more than a battle. It was the opportunity to define history itself. Every movement, every signal, every arrangement of troops carried weight far beyond the immediate fight. It could determine the future of kingdoms and the course of dynasties. The landscape itself seemed alive with possibility. Rolling hills offered vantage points, forests concealed opportunities for surprise, and rivers marked boundaries both literal and strategic. The battlefield was no longer just earth and grass. It was a stage for intellect and courage, where foresight could outmatch brute strength, and where audacity could turn the tide of fate. The commanders understood this, and their eyes scanned every inch of the terrain, seeking advantage where others saw only danger. As dawn broke, the armies shifted into formation. Soldiers moved with precision, their training and discipline visible in every step. Cannons were positioned to maximize devastation, infantry arranged to exploit weakness, cavalry ready to strike where the enemy faltered. It was a complex dance of coordination, anticipation, and timing. A masterclass in the art of war. Yet even as the plans were set, the unpredictability of battle loomed. The smallest miscalculation could ignite chaos, and the wrong decision in a moment of hesitation could undo weeks of preparation. The tension was electric. Every heartbeat seemed amplified. Drums rolled in the distance, signaling the opening of what would become a decisive clash. Men whispered prayers, steeled themselves for the storm ahead, and stared across the field at those who would determine their fate. The weight of history pressed upon them, yet in their determination there was courage. This was more than survival. This was a chance to be part of something greater, to witness and to shape a day that would echo for centuries. Every eye on the battlefield, every movement of troops, every decision made by those who led, carried the potential to change the course of nations. The day had arrived when strategy, courage, and fate would collide in a way the world would never forget. The stage was set, the pieces in motion, and the world held its breath for the unfolding of a moment that would alter history forever. The drums of war echoed across the fields, a thunderous prelude to a confrontation that would decide the fate of nations. As the armies faced each other, the chaos of preparation was transformed into a precise and deliberate choreography. Every unit knew its place, every officer understood the sequence, and yet, beneath this disciplined exterior, the unpredictability of battle loomed like a shadow. The true challenge was not merely to engage the enemy, but to anticipate, to manipulate, and to command the flow of events. With foresight few could claim, the battlefield was a puzzle, its pieces shifting constantly under the weight of men, horses, and cannon fire. Forests became hiding places for surprise attacks. Ridges offered vantage points for devastating volleys, and rivers threatened to divide or trap entire battalions. Those who commanded the day had to see beyond the immediate clash, to visualize the movement of thousands of men across these natural obstacles, and to bend the chaos of war into a coherent plan. Timing, positioning, and adaptation were as lethal as the musket or the cannonball. The first clash of infantry rang out like steel against steel. Smoke curled from musket fire, masking movements and adding a layer of uncertainty to every decision. Yet amidst the turmoil, strategy unfolded with uncanny precision. Flanks were reinforced just as they faltered. Reserves were deployed exactly when they could turn the tide, and cavalry charges struck with such timing that they split enemy lines before they could recover. Each maneuver revealed not only courage, but an acute understanding of human psychology, knowing when fear would paralyze, when boldness would inspire, and when hesitation could unravel the entire battle plan. Commanders moved among their troops with purpose, their eyes scanning every sector, reading the subtle shifts in momentum, and making instant judgments that would ripple through thousands of lives. Their decisions were not made in isolation but in constant interplay with the enemy, anticipating moves before they occurred and exploiting even the smallest lapse in focus. The battlefield became a living organism, reacting to each action, each volley, each charge, and yet being subtly directed by minds attuned to both opportunity and risk. Artillery thundered across the fields, shaping the engagement with calculated devastation. Lines of infantry advanced, staggered, and reformed under pressure, their movements choreographed to create openings, bait attacks, and seize critical ground. Cavalry struck like lightning at the decisive moment, exploiting breaches and spreading panic through opposing ranks. The tide of battle seemed to ebb and flow almost predictably, guided by strategy that turned chaos into a weapon. Even in the heat of combat, the battlefield revealed lessons in leadership and timing. The commander's ability to combine audacity with meticulous planning allowed them to achieve what many thought impossible. They demonstrated that brilliance was not merely in reaction, but in anticipation, seeing the future of the battle before it unfolded, positioning forces to act with speed and precision, and committing to decisions when hesitation could have been fatal. The enemy, formidable in their own right, could not match the cohesion and foresight that directed each movement, and slowly, imperceptibly at first, advantage shifted. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's most pivotal battles, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories of strategy, courage, and consequence. Thanks for watching. In the annals of warfare, some battles are remembered for their sheer scale, others for their brutality, but a select few are immortalized for something more: the sheer genius of their execution. These are the moments when a single day, a single plan, a single commander bends the arc of history. Today, we're going to explore one such battle a day when the chaos of war was tamed by in military strategy, a conflict whose echoes would reshape the map of Europe and redefine the balance of power for a century. It began as a contest of strength and numbers, but it was transformed into a symphony of tactical brilliance. Every maneuver, every feint, Every decisive strike reinforced a mastery of strategy that went far beyond simply moving troops. This was a deep understanding of the interplay of terrain, timing, and perhaps most importantly, morale. Soldiers on both sides fought with incredible valor, but it was leadership and insight from the top that sculpted the final outcome. Each choice made on that fateful day carried consequences far beyond the immediate skirmish, rippling across the continent to alter alliances, topple powers, and rewrite history itself. As the thick smoke of cannon fire eventually began to clear, it became obvious that this was not just a victory of arms. It was a triumph of planning, of vision, and of execution. What had been a desperate gamble against a seemingly invincible foe had been won through foresight and an unwavering belief in an audacious plan. The destiny of nations was being forged in the fires of that single day. When the dust settled and the fields fell silent, the true scale of what had been achieved started to become clear. The ground, which had trembled under the thunder of artillery and the brutal clash of steel, now bore the silent scars of a conflict that would resonate for generations. Victory wasn't just counted in the number of fallen or captured soldiers. It was measured in the irreversible shift it had created in the political and military landscape of Europe. What had seemed impossible in the confused preparations for war had been made real through strategy, perfect timing, and an unyielding resolve to see it through. The continent, which had been balanced on a knife's edge between competing empires, was suddenly facing a new reality. The momentum of empires had shifted. Allies and enemies alike were forced to reevaluate their positions. Treaties were hastily reconsidered, and the confidence of leaders who had long dominated the political stage was shattered. This victory was a powerful demonstration that even the most established hierarchies could be challenged. It proved that foresight, intelligence, and sheer audacity could override centuries of tradition or inherited power. The battlefield had become a crucible, not just for soldiers and their weapons, but for ideas. It was the idea that decisive action, guided by sharp insight, could rewrite the very rules of engagement and redefine the balance of power for everyone. These soldiers, utterly exhausted and bloodied, had witnessed the culmination of months of meticulous preparation and weeks of nerve-wracking anticipation. Their endurance and discipline were absolutely essential, but their success was magnified by the orchestration from above. They were instruments in a grand design, conducted by a mind capable of seeing every possibility, every risk, and every fleeting opportunity in the dense fog of war. It was a stunning demonstration of how human intellect, when applied with precision and confidence, could multiply the effectiveness of human effort on a scale rarely seen before. Each unit's action, whether it was a desperate defense, a steady advance, or a lightning-fast strike at a critical moment, was part of a larger, living mosaic of tactical brilliance. Every single movement contributed to the overarching design that sealed the day's outcome. The victory sent shockwaves through the opulent halls of power across Europe. Royal courts that had long assumed their own invincibility now questioned their security, their strategies, and their deepest assumptions. Diplomats scrambled to reconsider alliances, while rival generals pored over maps in disbelief, trying to comprehend the sheer audacity and insight that had produced such a decisive result. A single day had altered the calculations of kings, reshaped the priorities of empires, and forced even the most arrogant leaders to confront the limits of their own understanding. It was a stark reminder that history can, and often does, hinge on a single moment, and that the actions of a few, when guided by vision and courage, can redirect the fate of millions. Of course, the human cost was stark and undeniable. Thousands of lives were lost, and within that sacrifice lay the seeds of a future that would be fundamentally different. Armies that had seemed invincible just hours before had faltered under the immense pressure of coordinated, intelligent strategy. Their defeat became a lesson, not only in the power of planning, but also in the fragility of confidence, when it is not tested by true ingenuity. The survivors would carry the memory of that day for the rest of their lives, recounting not just the terror and the valor of combat, but the astonishing, almost perfect orchestration that seemed to make victory inevitable from the start. The day would enter the annals of history not simply as a military success, but as a timeless testament to the capacity of a disciplined intellect to channel courage and action into truly transformative results. In the aftermath, the subtle shifts began almost immediately. Territories once considered secure were now vulnerable. Alliances that had seemed rock solid began to fracture under the weight of fear and uncertainty. The psychological impact of such a masterful victory echoed far beyond the battlefield itself. It influenced diplomatic negotiations, it inspired loyalty among allies, and it instilled a powerful seed of doubt in those who might otherwise have acted with arrogance. The lesson was crystal clear. Strategic brilliance, when combined with decisive execution, could achieve outcomes that brute strength alone could never hope to produce. The battlefield had become a classroom, and the entire world was its student, observing, learning, and being forever changed by this demonstration of calculated mastery. Generals and commanders across Europe would study this engagement for years to come. They would dissect every troop movement, analyze the timing of every charge, and attempt to replicate the unique combination of vision and audacity that had delivered such a sweeping, unbelievable result. But this was more than just a lesson in tactics. It was a revelation. It revealed how a comprehensive understanding of the situation, a keen anticipation of human behavior, and the raw courage to act decisively at the right moment could convert potential into reality. That day became a benchmark, a new reference point against which all future military campaigns would be measured. It set a new standard by which the capability of great leaders would be judged for generations. As news of the victory spread like wildfire, it transformed perceptions. Confidence surged among the victors' allies. Morale soared in their armies, and those who had doubted that it was even possible to overcome such powerful adversaries were forced to confront this new, undeniable reality. The psychological dimension of the achievement was just as significant as the physical one. It demonstrated that history is shaped not only by the clash of armies, but by the perception of mastery, the projection of authority, and the ability to command respect through sheer competence. One day had redrawn boundaries, both on the map and in the minds of men, reinforcing the timeless lesson that leadership, intelligence, and courage can leave a legacy that stretches far beyond the immediate battlefield. Even as the work of reconstruction began, as treaties were renegotiated and the political landscape of Europe slowly adjusted to its new shape, the reverberations of that single day continued to influence decisions and ambitions. The understanding that one decisive action could recalibrate the destiny of nations created an enduring precedent. Those who had witnessed it, whether on the field, in the royal courts, or from across the continent, understood that history could be rewritten not over months or years, but in a single, meticulously executed moment. The mastery displayed became a symbol, a touchstone for what was possible. It was a demonstration that the synthesis of preparation, foresight, and courage could achieve outcomes previously thought to be impossible. The significance of the day went beyond mere victory or loss. It defined a new standard. Armies, governments, and leaders now recognized that brilliance in planning and audacity in execution could determine outcomes far greater than the sum of their parts. The lessons learned on that field, absorbed, would inform strategies, inspire future leaders, and resonate across generations. In that moment, the world witnessed how a single engagement, guided by intelligence, foresight, and an unwavering resolve, could alter the trajectory of empires and leave an indelible mark on history. This masterclass in strategy, this turning point in the fate of a continent, was the Battle of Blenheim, fought on August 13, 1704. It was the moment when John Churchill, the Duke of Marlborough, and his ally, Prince Eugene of Savoy, shattered the myth of French invincibility. It was more than a clash of armies. It was a turning point that reshaped the balance of power in Europe. One day of decisive strategy, courage, and foresight altered the course of nations, proving that vision and leadership can triumph over chaos. The legacy of Blenheim endures as a testament to how a single moment, masterfully executed, can change history forever. Thank you for joining us on this journey back in time. If you found the story of strategy and history as fascinating as we do, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into the moments that shaped our world. We'll see you in the next one.